Native American dogs. Dogs that coexisted with Native Americans, also known as pre-Columbian dogs, were Native American dogs. They arrived with the Paleo-Indians some 10,000 years ago, and they now comprise a small portion of dog breeds, ranging from the Peruvian Hairless Dog to the Alaskan Malamute. There is the earliest evidence of dogs in the Americas at Danger Cave in Utah. The site has been dated to between 9,000 and 10,000 years BC. It has been demonstrated that the ancestors of these New World dogs are Old World Eurasian gray wolves. A 2018 study compared fossilized North American dog sequences to fossilized Siberian dog sequences and contemporary dog sequences. A fossil from 9000 BC that was found on Zhukov Island in Arctic northeastern Siberia, which at the time was connected to the mainland, was the closest relative to the fossils found in North America. Based on mDNA analysis, the study deduced that all North American dogs descended from a common ancestor who lived around 14,600 BC. This ancestor diverged from their common ancestor around 15,600 BC, along with the ancestor of the Zhukov dog. Based on their chronology, coaster dogs came to North America from Siberia 4,500 years after humans did. They lived in isolation for the next 9,000 years before being contacted by Europeans, at which point they were supplanted by Eurasian dogs and went extinct. DNA from the cell nucleus of the pre-contact dogs shows that their closest genetic relatives today are the Arctic breed dogs, which include Alaskan Huskies, Carolina dogs, Siberian Huskies, Alaskan Malamutes, and Greenland dogs. The pre-contact dogs had a distinct genetic signature that is no longer present. 5 distinct lineages are thought to have originated in the Americas during the past 9 millennia when the dog was introduced 4 times. It was said that the Native American Aboriginal dogs sounded and looked like wolves. Based on its historical description, one author believes the Hare Indian dog to be a domesticated coyote. Several coyotes at the 14th century Arroyo Hondo Pueblo in northern New Mexico appear to have received the same treatment as domestic dogs. The Xoloitzcuintle, also known as Solo, is one of the oldest dog breeds in the Americas. It originated in Mexico at least 3,500 years ago and traveled with the first immigrants from Asia. The dog was brought to South America sometime between 7,500 and 4,500 BP, 15,550 to 2,550 BCE. Dogs in South America are only found to become denser by 3,500 BP, 1550 BCE, and they appear to be limited to Andean agricultural regions. Radiocarbon dating places the oldest dog discovery in Brazil between 1701 and 1526 Cal BP, 249-424 CE, while the oldest dog discovery in Argentina's Pampas is dated to 930 BP, 1020 CE. Around 750 CE, hairless dogs were depicted in Peru on moche ceramic vessels. These images persisted in later Andean ceramic traditions. Talton bear dog. A breed of dog known as the Talton bear dog arrived in Canada during early migrations and adapted to the local climate. Somewhere between the lines of the Spitz and Pariah types was where the Talton was constructed. Above all, the perfect dog was athletic and nimble so that it could harass and divert large game. Because hunting was the only purpose for which they were bred, each dog's appearance was unique. The predominant colors of a Talton bear dog were black, dark brown, or blue, with occasional white patches on their feet or tail, as well as on their chest and underbelly. Standing between 14 and 17 inches tall at the shoulder, it has a refined, pointed muzzle and relatively large, erect, pointed ears. The average-length, glossy coat had guard hairs covering a thicker undercoat, comparatively large for the size of the dog and slightly webbed paws. They possessed an odd yodel, just like the others in their group. Although they have a fox-like appearance, their unique tail sets them apart from other dogs. It is short, bushy, and carried erect. It is sometimes referred to as a whisk broom or a shaving brush. Small in stature, but capable of hunting much larger game, the Talton bear dog was raised by the Talton people to hunt bears. 2 dogs were slung over the hunter's shoulder in a sack until new bear tracks were visible on the morning of the hunt. The bear was slowed by the deep drifts, and the dogs glided lightly over the snow crust upon their release. Their staccato yaps, akin to a fox's, scared or harassed the bear until the hunter got close enough to make a kill. The Talton bear dog was kind and amiable toward both people and smaller animals. Along with the family, they shared a bed and board in the tent. The Talton dogs originated from pariah-type dogs that traveled with prehistoric people. They were concentrated in the isolated mountain regions of southern Yukon and northwest British Columbia. They thrived in the bitter cold, eating mostly small bits of meat, fish, and birds as their usual diet. When they were not in their natural habitat, they perished from heat prostration, distemper, and issues brought on by dietary modifications. The Talton bear dog vanished from history when European explorers entered the area and brought firearms with them. Talton dogs have no contemporary relationship to any modern populations, according to genetic references found in the archaeological record. Chiribaya dog, an extinct pre-Columbian dog breed from the southwest of Peru, is known as the Chiribaya dog, or Peruvian shepherd dog, Perro pastor peruano. It's proven that the animal was a llama herding dog. In addition to playing a significant role in the ancient Peruvian social structure, dogs also received particular treatment in death. The remains date back a millennium. Although the ancient Peruvians did not keep sheep, the dog variety has been referred to under various names in Spanish-language documentaries, such as Pastor Peruano, Peruvian Shepherd, and El Perro Pastor Chiribaya, the Chiribaya shepherd dog. Its original name is unknown. It has been more loosely called Perro Peruano or Perro del Peru, Peruvian dog, dog of Peru. However, this term has also been applied to an extant but ancient hairless variety, more precisely called Perro sin pelo del Peru, hairless dog of Peru, or the Peruvian Inca orchid, a favorite in dog shows throughout South America. The dogs were discovered buried in cemeteries close to 42 human mummies from the Chiribaya culture, which flourished in the Moquegua region, Ilo district, and on Peru's southern coast. These people appear to have buried their pets with all the respect due to a devoted friend or colleague. Anthropologist Sonia Guillen's research, which focuses on the study of ancient mummies from affluent pre-Columbian cultures from the Chachapoyas to the Moquegua shores, is responsible for this discovery. From approximately 900 to 1350 CE, the mummies belong to the late Middle period. The Malki Center, named after the Quechua word for mummy, is located in the port area of Ilo and is devoted to studying Chiribaya culture. This community evolved into a chiefdom. Every archaeologist's dream comes true in their territory because of the high nitrate content and extremely dry soil, which have preserved the physical remains of the people who once lived there. According to Sonia Guillen, a person's tomb is a reflection of their social, political, and religious standing in society. Regarding these dogs, it appears from their tombs that they were well cared for, whether they were alive or not, after leading a fruitful life in the Chiribaya civilization. Journalist, producer, and documentary filmmaker Martha Mayer Miro Casada, along with her team, managed to capture the results of Sonia Guillen's research in photographs, and in 2006, they created a documentary named El Perro Pastor Chiribaya, or the Chiribaya shepherd dog. After carefully examining the mummies, Hermano Maniero, the president of the Kennel Club of Peru, and Viviana Fernandez, a veterinarian from the National University of San Marcos, concluded that the dogs were short-legged and longer than tall. They also had a wide range of hair colors, some of which were yellow and red, and some of which had dark spots on the back or head. They had cropped ears and falls, and they had feet like hares, which may have been important in the environment of the Chiribayas. Additional details were provided by the BBC. The dog was small, beige in color, had a long snout, long fur, and resembled a small golden retriever. The Hare Indian dog, once discovered and initially bred in northern Canada by the Hare Indians for coursing, is an extinct domesticated dog that may have been a breed of domestic dog, coy dog, or domesticated coyote. It possessed the domesticated temperament and other traits of a domestic dog, along with the speed and other traits of a coyote. With the decline of Aboriginal hunting techniques, it became less and less useful until it became extinct or lost its unique identity due to interbreeding with dogs in the 19th century, though some claim it still exists in modified form. The Hare Indian dog was a small, delicately built, domesticated dog with an elongated, narrow, and pointed muzzle. Compared to the Canadian Eskimo dog, it had pointed ears that were more erect, broad at the base, and closer together. It had somewhat long and thin legs. Its bushy, thick tail curled upward over its right hip, though not as much as that of the Canadian Eskimo dog. The long, straight fur had a base color of white and large, irregular patches of grayish-black mixed in with different shades of brown. Short brown hair darkened at the base and covered the outer part of the ears. The inside of the ears had long, white fur. Like the legs, the fur on the muzzle was short and white, but it thickened and lengthened at the feet. There were black splotches surrounding the eyes. It shared characteristics with the sympatric wolves, including long hair that extended over the soles between the toes and calloused, nude protuberances at the base of the toes and soles that were visible even in the winter. Its size was in between that of an American red fox and a coyote. The Hare Indian dog was not particularly docile and seemed to detest being confined of any kind, but it was also quite playful and easily made friends with strangers. It seemed to show affection by stroking people with its back, much like a cat would. It was not known to bark in its native country, though puppies raised in Europe picked up on mimicking other dogs barking. It made a sound that was described as a growl building up to a howl when it was hurt or afraid, and it howled like a wolf when it was curious. The Hare Indian dog is a playful, loving dog that is easily won over by kindness. However, it is not very submissive and detests all forms of confinement. It quickly befriends a stranger and enjoys being petted. It rubs its back against the hand like a cat. Like a wild animal, it is extremely aware of any harm and does not cower under a lash like a spaniel does. But if it feels that it has been rightfully punished, it will spend the entire day hovering around its master's tent, not coming into contact with him even if he calls it. When injured or scared, it lets out a howl similar to a wolf's, but when it spots an odd object, it attempts a unique barking sound that starts as a kind of growl but ends in a long howl. Its voice is strikingly similar to that of the coyote or prairie wolf. The larger dogs we kept as draft animals at Fort Franklin, which belonged to the mongrel breed often seen at the fur posts, would chase after the Hare Indian dogs to eat them. However, the latter easily outran them due to their superior speed. I bought a puppy from the Hare Indians, and it grew very attached to me. When it was about 7 months old, it ran for 900 miles on the snow by my sledge without getting tired. Throughout this march, it often carried a small twig or one of my mittens for a mile or two on its own. However, despite its gentle nature, it demonstrated little skill in picking up any of the skills that Newfoundland dogs pick up so quickly, like fetching and carrying when instructed. In Saskatchewan, this dog was killed and eaten by an Indian who claimed to have mistaken it for a fox. The puppy's extreme endurance is the most remarkable situation in this relationship and is worth mentioning. Even the strongest and oldest dogs typically cannot travel over 900 miles without becoming tired, even if they are eating little. Sir John Richardson, Fauna Boreali Americana, 1829. The Coast Salish peoples of what is now Washington State and British Columbia created and bred the extinct breed of white, long-haired Spitz-type dog known as the Salish wool dog, also called the Comox dog or Clallam Indian dog, for use in the textile industry. Archaeological sites in coastal Salish territory have revealed dog remains that match the morphology of the Salish wool dog and date back approximately 5,000 years. The village dogs resembled coyotes, and the small, long-haired wool dogs were purposefully kept apart as distinct populations. The dogs were mostly fed raw and cooked salmon while living in packs of 12 to 20 animals. Salish wool dogs were kept on islands and in gated caves to maintain the breed's conformity to type and desired white color. The Salish people, who were well known for their knitting and weaving, did not keep sheep. Although the fur of mountain goats was also used to make wool textiles, the goats were wild animals, and therefore the fur could only be obtained from them shedding their coats or from the skins of goats that had been hunted. The Salish wool dog was highly valued because it provided a reliable supply of high-grade wool derived from domesticated animals. In May or June, the dogs were sheared like sheep. According to George Vancouver's account, the sheared fur was so thick that he could pick up a corner of the fleece and it would stay together as a whole. To alter the yarn's quality and increase the amount of fiber available, dog hair was commonly combined with feathers, plant fibers, and the wool of mountain goats. Dog wool use decreased in the 1800s, and the breed went extinct in the late 1800s or early 1900s. A pelt was given to ethnographer George Gibbs in 1859 while he was conducting the Northwest Boundary Survey. In 2003, the specimen was found again in the collection of the National Museum of Natural History. The specimen's DNA genomic samples showed that Salish wool dogs split off from other breeds up to 5,000 years ago. Woolen blankets, like those made from the fur of the living coast Salish dog, have great social, cultural, economic, and spiritual significance for the Salish peoples, in addition to their utilitarian value. Historically, the task of creating the blankets fell to women. Grandmothers trained young girls, starting as early as age 10, and when they reached puberty, the training became more rigorous. It could take a long time to weave a blanket and require a serious commitment. They were also frequently connected to spiritual practices or obligations like abstinence. The origin story of the Salish people states that the dogs themselves taught the women how to weave. During potlatch ceremonies and public gatherings, for example, blankets were given away to community members or even people in other villages as a sign of prosperity. They also served as a form of exchange for other goods, which could be bought or bartered. Certain ceremonial blankets have historically, but also in the present, been used to identify their wearer as a community leader in both politics and religion. A blanket can be used to identify honorees, or they can sit or stand on their blankets to elevate themselves in line with their esteemed position. A small dog breed that is now extinct, the Techichi, was developed in the 9th century CE by the Toltec culture. It is believed to be a progenitor of the contemporary Chihuahua. The coats of Techichis ranged from brown to black and white to brown and white, giving them a variety of looks. Their tails were left untrimmed in their natural state, but occasionally their ears were cropped close to the head. Although Techichis were larger than contemporary Chihuahuas, the Aztecs bred them to become the smaller, lighter dog that we know today. Francisco Hernandez, a Spanish explorer, was the first European to come across the dog breed and documented its existence in 1578. According to what he wrote, they were eaten by the Aboriginal people, just like rabbits. They were also eaten by the Spanish on their expeditions, who were frequently hungry. Up to 100,000 Techichis are thought to have been consumed by Spanish explorers. By the 19th century, however, they had completely vanished. The Mexican state of Chihuahua is home to many of the breed's contemporary descendants, but interest in it among non-Mexicans did not develop until the middle of the 1800s. Similar to the Toltecs, the Aztecs also thought that Techichis could guide human souls after death and guard pyramids if buried beneath them. Wheeled toys and effigy pots are among the pre-Columbian artifacts depicting the dogs. People ate Techichis as food, and certain stud males and brood females were kept to produce as many litters as possible. A canid that is extinct is the Fuegian dog, also known as the Yagan dog or the Patagonian dog. The Fuegian dog was traditionally believed to have been bred and domesticated from the South American colpeo, also known as the colpeo fox, like Calopex colpeus, in contrast to the domestic dog's ancient wolf ancestry. Research from 2023, however, revealed that the Fuegian dog described in earlier stories may have actually been two distinct animals. The colpeo is classified in a different genus within the South American foxes, or zoros, because it resembles true foxes, tribe Vulpini, in form and stature, but it is genetically closer to wolves, coyotes, and jackals, true canids, tribe Canini. There are just two extant museum specimens or examples of the Fuegian dog. One is housed at the Fagnano Regional Museum in Tierra del Fuego, Argentina, and the other at the Museo Salesiano Majorino Borgatello in Chile. In 2013, Petrigan Fugassa used hair samples from taxidermized Fuegian dog specimens that were part of the Fagnano Regional Museum's collection in Rio Grande to carry out a genetic study. The hair sample's DNA was compared to that of domestic dogs, Canis lupus familiaris, and a variety of canids found in Patagonia, including the culpio, Lycalopex culpeus, the South American gray fox, Lycalopex griseus, and the pampas fox, Lycalopex gymnocercus. The results of this analysis indicated that the culpio and the Fuegian dog had more similarities, 97.57%, than did the domestic dog, 88.93%. Molecular phylogenetic analysis confirmed these findings, pointing to an unusual domestication of culpios by hunter-gatherers living in Patagonia. Jaksic and Castro, 2023, argued that the Fuegian dog was actually two different animals, which they named the Patagonian dog and the Fuegian dog, in a review of historical accounts and the current scientific literature. According to their analysis, the Fuegian dog, used by the Chonos, Kawaskar, and Yagan peoples, was descended from an ancestral domestic dog population brought across the Bering Strait, while the Patagonian dog, used by the Selknam, Aonakenk, and Menakenk peoples, was a domesticated breed descended from the culpio. Fuegian dogs were tawny-colored or entirely white, with erect ears, a sharp snout, longer straight fur, and a thick tail. Surviving images suggest that they were about the same size as the wild culpio, which weighs 5 to 13.5 kilograms, 11 to 30 pounds, or about the same as a Shetland sheepdog. Samuel Kirkland Lothrop reported that their height ranged from 11 to 20 inches, while Ricardo E. Latcham reported that they were over 60 to 23.6 centimeters, 23.6 to 9.3 in. Due to their resemblance to the maned wolf, gauchos called these foxes maned dogs, and Lucas Bridges described them as a stunted cross between an Alsatian police dog and a wolf. It was characterized as ugly, with long tawny hair and a sharp snout. It looks quite like a fox, by French navigator Louis Ferdinand Martial, who led the scientific expedition to Cape Horn in 1883. Observations made by Europeans indicated a smaller, lighter-colored dog used for tuco-tuco hunting, and a larger, darker-colored dog used for guanaco hunting, which is consistent with Jaksic and Castro's division of the species into two distinct animals. Even though the Yagan people's distribution matched that of the Fuegian dog, it's possible that individual animals did not defend their human owners. Julius Popper said of the canids, "I never saw them, no matter how large their number, take an aggressive attitude or defend their masters when these were in danger," as evidence of their lack of loyalty. When Silesian missionary Martin Gusinda visited the Yagans in 1919, he observed that as far as he was aware, every dog appeared to have vanished. He thought this strange right away, especially since by now, foreign missionaries and explorers had thoroughly documented the relationship between the dogs and the indigenous people. In fact, the area became the last stronghold of this unique domesticated dog to have ever existed, thanks to their mutual cooperation. When he asked the locals what had become of the animals, and also spoke with them, he was informed that all known populations of them had been wiped out because they were dangerous to men and cattle. In his writings from the 1880s, Thomas Bridges claimed to have seen the fierce nature of the animal and claimed that the dogs had attacked the goats at his mission, though he did not provide many details. Due to the dog's use in hunting and house construction among the Selknam, European ranchers and headhunters hunted them as part of the genocide campaign. This was the primary reason they went extinct.